Is your palate ready to go 0.5 past flavor nirvana? Well, we are releasing special modifications. Insert Star Wars reference. We'll go into it a little bit later. But before we get into the beer review, you may notice in the room that we have usually done our reviews, we've got a different backdrop. The ladies at Sabertooth Public Art is redoing our entire bridal suite. And this is one of the walls they are repainting, and they're going to do an open house for the completed room May 19th, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. I believe that's a Friday. So check out their social media, Sabertooth Public Art, definitely Instagram, probably Facebook. And there's going to be apps, this and that, and they're going to show you the entire space. So it's a pretty cool room. Yeah, bridal suite, a little bit feminine on the backdrop, but with all the walls going on, there's going to be some neon, some cool lighting. It's going to be a pretty cool room for, you know, anybody. But anyway, special modifications through that. Did you remember where that reference came from? It's from when Luke said to Han Solo, "What a piece of junk," referring to the Millennium Falcon. And then Han Solo says, you know, I've made a lot of special modifications myself. It can go 0.5 past light speed.
Didn't it make the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate that I know what that is.
So, no, special modifications. This beer features 2 hops, Nelson Sauvin and Mosaic. And usually, well, in this case, Nelson and Mosaic can stand on their own. And not many hops can do that, Citra can, but a lot of, you know, good IPAs, you need that combination of hops to turn it from one-dimensional to more of a three-dimensional palate. But these are great on their own. We did Mosaic as its own hop for one of our COVID releases, Normality. We never have done Nelson on its own, but I had a great Nelson Pale Ale from a guy named Larry from the Akron Homebrew Club, blew me away. But Nelson and Mosaic needs to be used in specific parts of the boil, whirlpool, to get the best effect. So about a year ago, we debuted this in the Valley under a double whirlpool. We used our standard then hopping rate, 50-50, you know, whirlpool and then knockout, you know, split them evenly. They both went in at the same time. Carl redid this recipe to favor the parts of the whirlpool, you know, right at knockout, flame out, or as it's cooling down when we're whirlpooling, to put these hops to highlight them best. So Carl can go into the characteristics of Nelson and Mosaic and how we used them.
Sure. Well, I guess just as a quick explanation, you know, when you're adding hops to a beer, there's a couple different points where you'd want to add them. Generally speaking, there's what you call the hot side hops and the cold side hops. Generally speaking, when you add hops, you boil them, you're extracting alpha acids. That's where you get your bittering units from. But then you also start extracting some flavor compounds, right? So a hot side, you're typically talking about boil additions, or you're talking about whirlpool. Like I said, you know, when you're boiling it, you're going to be extracting all these alpha acids, isomerizing them. That's where you get your bitterness from. Mm-hmm. When you whirlpool, it's not going to be quite as hot, so you're not going to be extracting quite the same amount of bitterness, but you're still going to be extracting, you know, certain flavor and aroma compounds. Now, cold side, that's generally speaking, that's referring to dry hopping, which is after the beer is, you know, in the tank, it's sitting around room temperature, give or take. You just add more hops to it there. That locks in all the aroma and flavor of the hops without boiling off any of those compounds. So dry hopping is really used to kind of give IPAs or any kind of beer that you'd use dry hopping a hoppy boost, because, you know, when you boil hops, you extract all the alpha acids you want, but you're also boiling off some aroma and flavor. So in doing an IPA like this, we are typically doing most of the hopping cold side, because what's really important to doing an IPA is that the bitterness is really restrained and mellow, but you still want to lock in all those, especially those more fruity, tropical aromas and flavors. So most of the hopping is getting done cold side. Now, for this particular beer, we did, like I said, Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin. those beers, or those hops express themselves in slightly different ways. Part of the reason why is because where you get flavor and aroma from in hops, you have all these different compounds. You have different combinations of myrcines, humulones, cohumulones, lupinase, draineols. There's more than a dozen different compounds. And those different combinations of compounds give you the different hop flavors you get. Some of those are much more sensitive to heat. So some of them, a lot of them are responsible more for like melon, maybe grape. Those are much more delicate. Those tend to flash off very quickly, hot side. Whereas some of them, like you see with Mosaic, it's more berry forward, a bit more citrusy, more tropical. Mosaic, because it's driven more by those compounds that tend to hold up really well hot side, you can throw them into the whirlpool or even at the end of the boil and still preserve quite a bit of that fruity, berryish punch. Whereas Nelson Sauvin, we find it kind of gets a little bit wasted if you throw it in hot side because you can be flashing off some more of those compounds that really Nelson Sauvin is kind of known for. So what we did this recipe is we took our hot side hopping, cold side hopping, and for the hot side, we did 2/3 Mosaic and 1/3 Nelson Sauvin. That was all whirlpool. Like I said, because Mosaic we know it just holds up better hot side.
And whirlpools between 200 degrees and it's dropping down to 180 as we continue to hop, so cooler than 212 degree boil.
So we're not flashing off a whole lot of flavor aroma as it is. We're also not extracting much bitterness out of the hops. And really when you get the hop matter in hot, you start to get a little bit more of some of the flavor compounds kind of they kind of mesh more with the rest of the beer. So with the Mosaic, we really wanted that berry backbone. And with the Nelson Sauvin, we wanted those more delicate kind of melon, white wine, grape kind of characters. So for the dry hop and the cold side hopping, it was 2/3 Nelson Sauvin and only 1/3 Mosaic. So we kind of reversed the ratios.
How do you feel?
Yes.
I know you've
I'm ready to try. I've already cracked into mine, so.
And when I haven't sampled it since we canned it last Wednesday. It's going out, our distributor picked it up today. So you guys will start seeing it trickle on the shelves next week and the following. It's available at Canal Place today. But coming from the tank, this is a very interesting, very distinct beer apart from a lot of our double New Englands. You'll see the difference of these two hops. And if you remember normality with all Mosaic, it was a blueberry medley, essentially, bubblegummy, this and that. That's good on its own, but with the Nelson component, given the grape part of it, it's a very unique beer.
Yeah, the synergy is really interesting. I mean, that's the reason why they call it Nelson Sauvin, because the Sauvin is the Sauvin, because it reminds people of white wine. It kind of get that white grape character. And then the synergy, the way it works the berry is, instead of it being very berryish or very, like I would say, white wine grape-ish, the synergy between that kind of berry, citrus, tropical backbone that you get from the Mosaic, combined with the more delicate kind of white grape, white wine character you get from Nelson Sauvin, I get more melon on the nose actually. It's never really quite berryish. It's not heavily white wine-ish. On the nose, it's actually, I get more melon, almost like a honeydew a little bit. Tropical honeydew.
Now this beer represents a perfect Venn diagram where you got these two circles, each with its quality. They both have citrus components, tropical components, but one of them has the white wine, the other one has the blueberry, and they overlap with the citrus in the middle, tying them together. And then you got the extremes where they don't overlap that give it its uniqueness.
Yeah, like I said, when you drink it.
Maybe we should have called it Venn diagram. We'll have to check on tap to see if anyone's done that.
When you drink it, I definitely get like more Mosaic, more berry kind of backbone. But also as it washes down, I get more of that kind of white wine, grape character from Nelson Sauvin. And like I said, in that middle, it kind of melds in this kind of melon honeydew character.
No, it's a great beer. It's super unique. It's apart from a lot of New England IPAs out there that I've had.
It's still fruity. It's still pleasant. It's a little bitterness.
Pillowy, a little bitterness, smooth.
It's not the standard, citrus forward, Citrobomb. It's still fruity. It's tropical, but in slightly different way than you get with a typical.
Yeah, hence the name Special Modifications. We had to treat these hops very differently in the brew process to bring out their best attributes.
Yeah.
So food pairing. Doing a little research on food pairing, New England IPAs. New England IPAs are soft, pillowy, a little bit sweet. So you don't really want to pair them with the same type of food, like, you know, barbecue, you know, falling off the bone brisket. What you want to do is pair it with something at the other extreme, you know, crispy, like fried chicken, corn on the cob, dishes like that to have a contrast to bring it together.
Especially something salty too, because that's really going to make the more tropical melon characters kind of pop, really. So.
What if we added a little bit of salt to this, like a goes?
Because you're going too far.
Too far? Okay.
Too far, Ron.
Carl doesn't like that idea. We've put him through the ringer on some ideas in the past.
If it was up to me, it would be all Ryan Heights kebab.
That's a fine line. I guess we can't cross. So, all right. So that is this beer review, and we hope to see you at Canal Place this weekend. Thanks, Carl.
For us, Ron. Everyone, cheers.